Hello everybody, welcome back to video number 2 in my series where I wrap up my monthly listening. So today I'm going to go over kind of some statistics in terms of what I listen to the most during the month of February, and then also talk about some things that I listened to for the first time. So I'm not going to waste any more time here, so let me just go ahead and show you first. Let me show you my first time listens CDs first. First, and these are in no particular order. First is 10 Summoner's Tales by Sting. I don't think I'd ever listened to a solo Sting album in its entirety at all. So, of course, this one has songs like If I Ever Lose My Faith in You, Fields of Gold, and then, you know, Shape of My Heart is another song that kind of had some airplay. And one of Sting's early 90s albums. Pretty good, not great, but pretty good. Next, this was a great one. This is Miles Smiles. Never listened to this all the way through. Or I might have listened to it once on my computer while I was working, just like in the background. But this is the first time I really listened to it to focus on it. And I really like it a lot. I think it's going to quickly become one of my favorites by him. Next, 1 Year by Colin Bloonstone. This was the 50th anniversary reissue that came out toward the end of last year. I just now got it in the mail, and happy I did. It's very similar to hype sticker coming out. It's very similar to Nick Drake, if y'all know Nick Drake. I really liked it. Next, Cold on the Shoulder by Gordon Lightfoot. I can thank my dad for this one. I just did a video. Dad and I got to see Gordo earlier in February, and Dad sent me a few of his albums. So you got just some good stuff on here: Rainbow Trout, Rainy Day People, Cold on the Shoulder, Fine as Fine Can Be, Cherokee Bend. Just some good stuff on here from 1975. Next, I can thank my friend Robert from Robert's on My Turntable. I've just started listening to the Arkells, Canadian rock band. This was their album Michigan Left. Listen to that for the first time. Really cool. I really like the title track and the song Book Club, as well as the song Kiss Cam was really good. And then also this was an album by the Arkells called Rally Cry, which came out in 2018. This was again another good album. Thank you, Robert. It's kind of more politically charged. They talk about, you know, different political events, not only in Canada but also in the US, that kind of go with the time. And yeah, just solid rock and roll. Next, here's a kicker. This is Thriller by Michael Jackson. I've never listened to this album in its entirety. I think I knew all of the songs on here, with the exception of maybe the final track, which is The Lady in My Life. But I've never listened to this album all the way through as one piece. Finally did it, and yeah, I really appreciate. I believe Robert S. sent me this, so thank you, Robert, for Michael Jackson. Next, another Zombies album. This is Breathe Out, Breathe In. This is the one of the reunion albums that came out in 2011. It has original members Colin Bloonstone and Rod Argent, and as well as former Argent member Jim Rodford on the bass, who's also Rod Argent's cousin. And they do some good stuff on here. The title track, Any Other Way, is a really good one. Kind of Latin. I think it was written by Colin Bloonstone. Then they also do a remake, a cover of the Argent song Christmas for the Free, which is really cool on that. Next, another gift from Robert S. This is the supergroup The Thorns. You have Matthew Sweet, Sean Mullins, and Pete Droge. Just a good Americana 90s kind of sounding album. Even though it came out in 2003, it's kind of got that 90s, you know, breezy kind of feel to it. But really good stuff. Next is Joshua Tree. Thank you, Rich Strickler, for this one. This is the Joshua Tree album, as well as a 1987 show at Madison Square Garden on this 2017 reissue. Really good. I mean, you got, you know, just great stuff. One Tree Hill and God's Country, Bullet the Blue Sky, which is a killer U2 song. Love that song. Next, another one from Robert S. This is Strangers in the First Place by Robert Francis. Again, it's got contributions from Ry Cooder and Mike Campbell on this album. Just kind of moody Americana folk songwriter kind of music. And then lastly, I got this from Rich Strickler and Robert S. They both sent me a copy of this. This is Hotel California. Never listened to this album in its entirety. Really liked it. You've got, of course, the title track, New Kid in Town, Life in the Fast Lane, Victim of Love is a really pretty song. And y'all know this album, but I'd never listened to it all the way through. So that completes my first time spins for the month of February. And I did fail to mention that in the month of February, there were 73 unique albums that I listened to. Part of the reason, I think last month it was 100 or more. I think it was exactly 100. But in the month of February, I watched a lot of the Olympics, and I had that on in lieu of listening to music. So it kind of dropped off for the month of February a little bit. So going into March, I think I'm already kind of ahead of the game for this series for next month. So, so yeah, 73 albums in the month of February. Now, let me show you my most listened to artists in the month of February. This is just the album I'm showing. This is Jackson Browne. I think part of the reason I listened to more Jackson Browne is that I had a video that was just posted on JT's Record Room, where JT, myself, and Rich Strickler broke down the album Running on Empty. And so I was getting refamiliarizing myself with Jackson Browne. So I listened to that album as well as this 2-album live set that Rich gave me earlier in February. And the first 4 of these artists, they were all tied for last place. Next is the Ramones. I'm starting to slowly get into the Ramones. I've got 3 other albums now. This is their 4th release, I believe, Road to Ruin. I really like the song Needles and Pins, but the big hit on here was I Want to Be Sedated. Kind of went hand in hand with the Ramones catalog, and it was one of their signature songs. Next, the Electric Light Orchestra. Now, I'm also doubling down. The reason I listen to Electric Light Orchestra predominantly because, for one thing, I'm really getting into their catalog, but I was listening to the Jeff Lynne ELO albums, so I'm counting those in this. But this was an album that I listened to also for the first time in the month of February, so that was kind of neat to knock out another ELO album. What's annoying about this is not the album that is in this CD case. So the album cover here is for ELO 2, which actually I have coming in the mail. But on the back, if you know anything about ELO, you'll know that the back cover is for On the Third Day, which is what the spine says on the CD. So all of the music in here is from the On the Third Day album, but the cover is wrong. So it's kind of disappointing. Next, here's another album that I listened to for the first time, but this is my, oh, excuse me. Well, I didn't grab one of their albums, but I've shown them a million times. The next most listened to was The Head and the Heart, again, tied for last place. Well, tied for last amongst the most listened to. I just love The Head and the Heart. They have a new album coming out, so I was listening to their older catalog this month quite a bit, as well as the singles, but I'm solely counting listening to full album spins. So The Head and the Heart were next, but this album was next on my also first time listen. It's Presence by Led Zeppelin, but Led Zeppelin in general I listen to a lot this month, which I don't listen to a lot of Zeppelin, but I did a video with Larry Graves and a bunch of other guys where we ranked the songs off of Led Zeppelin 4 and also Who's Next. But I need this album in my collection, so actually I picked this up last month, and so I'm only missing Coda to complete the studio albums. All right, in second place for most listened to is, oh, excuse me, Led Zeppelin was second place. So tied for first Mandolin Orange. I know I talked about them last month. I think I listened to them a lot last month as well. But I rounded out my collection for them by grabbing their first 2 albums. I didn't have them. This was the album Quiet Little Room. And this is their very first one. Came out in 2010. Again, Americana, bluegrass roots, but not bluegrass music. Just really good acoustic listening. And then number 1, well, tied for number 1, Miles Davis. I've listened to a lot of Miles this month, early in the morning while I'm starting my work day with my breakfast and my coffee. I listen to Miles Davis to get my day started, excuse me. So Miles and Mandolin Orange tied for first place. Now, here are my, and I'm almost done, so bear with me. Here are my top 5 most listened to albums of February. So, number 5, yeah, thank you, Robert S., for this album. I've listened to it several times this month. It's the Gin Blossoms' New Miserable Experience. Jangle, acoustic, 90s pop. If you like Sister Hazel or the Wallflowers, you'll like the Gin Blossoms. They're still kicking it. And the big hit on here was Hey Jealousy. But there's some great stuff on here. And so, Robert, I really appreciate this. It's really becoming a favorite of mine for my listening in the car. Speaking of the Wallflowers, Wallflowers are number 4. I've got tickets to see Jacob Dylan and the Wallflowers at the sometime in April. They're playing at a music festival just down the road from me. Really cheap tickets, and I've never seen them before. And their new album, Exit Wounds, was fantastic. So I've been listening to that, and Bringing Down the Horse, which has the big hit One Headlight, as well as 6th Avenue Heartache and 3 Marlenas. So Wallflowers made my most listened list. Top 3. This is an album by Brent Cobb called And Now Let's Turn the Page. It's a gospel, country, neo-country album. His grandmother had passed away and he wanted to do a gospel record. So he's got one cover on here called When It's My Time. And he does 8 other hymns, including like a 40-second a cappella version of Blessed Be the Tie That Binds. So it's really good stuff. It's produced by his cousin Dave Cobb, who's a big producer. All right, top 2 here. Number 2, the Cactus Blossoms and their album One Day. Thank you, Randy Nelson, for recommending this. I love this album. It's very Everly Brothers meets Marshall Crenshaw meets like Seals and Crofts meets just great harmonies. They're a brother duo. Just a really, really solid album. The cover art kind of says it all about what kind of music you're going to get into. They're just really, really good. So thank you very much, Randy, for recommending that. And number 1, I've talked about this album a couple of videos. I did a review on it. That's Jamestown Revival's album, Young Man. It's their newest album, and just fantastic. It's, again, another acoustic duo kind of album, but, you know, they've got tight harmonies. They're childhood friends that grew up together singing. The song, Young Man, has great mandolin playing in it. Coyote kind of reminds you of like a Marty Robbins song. Just really good stuff. And it kind of travels. It's kind of a loose concept album talking about, you know, growing old and looking back on your youth. Even though these guys are only like in their 30s, they're, you know, already looking back. No, they're not going to get any younger. So that was my most listened to album of the month of February. So I appreciate you all indulging me in this. I've got several ideas for videos coming up, including a contest entry that I'm probably going to hop on here right when I finish up, just to get these knocked out. Let me know about these albums. You know, I love to exchange conversations with you all in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, and remember, my contest is going until March the 17th. So please, please, please put in your entry so that you're in for the drawing, and let me know that you did it. So thank you all for watching, and I'll be back next month with more of this series. Let me know if you like it, and I will talk to you all on the next video, which should be very soon. So take care.